Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to another video in the 30 Inks 30 Days April 2021 series. Today we're doing day 21 through 25. So we're starting off with Sailor 50 States, Texas. It's a beautiful brown. And then next we have Diatrementis Apple Blossom, it's a gorgeous pink that kind of, well, it leans purple, sort of. It's a very interesting ink. And then next is Robert Oster Santa's Hangover. This is a 2020 holiday limited edition. Very interesting. I still can't make up my mind what color it is. It's a red, but it comes across differently sometimes. And then next is the Diamine, the Reddit Fountain Pen Choice Writer's Blood. Very pretty and deep, and probably the most flowy ink I have written with ever, I think. And then last but not least is Califolio, let's see. I don't know how to pronounce it. I should have looked that up. Bourgogne? Okay, we're not going to go there. But we are going to look at these. Before I start, I want to show you real quick, because at the very end, it probably might be hard to stay that long. I want to show you what the final 5 days are going to be, because I think it's going to be interesting to me. It's going to be an exploration of Parker inks. So the last 5 days will be Parker Quink Green, Parker Quink Blue, Parker Quink Washable Blue. Whoops, the camera's brightening these up a little. Parker Quink Blue Black, which is the only one I've had experience with, and Parker Quink Black. So those are the final 5. I hope I'm going to be able to get distinguishable lighting for those blues, but I mean I can see the difference with my eyes, but it is difficult with the camera. So that'll be a neat challenge. And these were sent by a generous pen friend, so that will finish out 30 Inks 30 Days for April with a bang. So let's get right into my ink journal. We'll look at each one of these and we'll look at comparison panels. So first up is this gorgeous brown. This is Sailor 50 States, Texas. And I held off on this ink as long as I possibly could because I was balking about the little 20 ml bottle being $25. But I was placing an order at Pen Chalet and they had it for $20. And I said, okay, Chris, you just get it, because I really, really wanted it. I love the color. I've seen several people do reviews and Instagram photos and, you know, workups on the ink. So it does turn out to be $1 a mil, but it's just a gorgeous brown with lots of shading. I've got a cat trying to get up here on the desk. Let's go ahead and put that up a little higher so you can see. It's just got a lot going on. Really, really nice. Oh, and the day I did this ink is the day that I had to take Willie to the vet. It was really, really busy. So I left that pen inked up because I didn't have much chance to use it that day. It's just got this most amazing chromatography. Now I had it up so you could see it. Let me do that again. It's just gorgeous. It goes from purple, pink, green, yellow. It's got complexity that just is super, super juicy. And when we get into the comparison panel, you'll see that it is pretty close to SBRE Brown, but it's not quite as orange. It's a little bit more brown. And so if that makes sense, it might not. But anyway, I love it. I love both of them, though. This didn't really replace SBRE Brown. So let's look at the comparisons, because that's where I really, really enjoy, you know, kind of putting it in context and looking at it compared to other inks. Let's see. Before we go, there is some green sheen, but I'm wondering, you may be able to see it there as the light hits it. Maybe a little bit more here where I use the Speedball C5. But it's just gorgeous. I love the ink. I'm not sorry at all that I overspent on it. There, here is the ink panel with Sailor 50 States, Texas right in the middle. It's got just a little bit of water resistance. I wouldn't call it permanent, but you could see that it stays, and that's quite a test. That's a lot of water there that's on it. Bless you. That was manual. So as I look at this panel, the first thing that strikes me is I'm not seeing an exact match. I'm just not, it's not so simple as to say, well, it looks exactly like that one. But you can see that it's warm like SBRE Brown, but it's more brown, in my opinion. So this is just, to me, a lot of fun to compare these. At first I thought maybe Diamine Ochre was going to be a match, and I love Diamine Ochre. It's beautiful coming out of a nib. But this one, it's just ever so slightly different, and it's just, it's a true brown. I mean, when you read your writing, you don't feel like you're looking at black. And that's something that is a criteria for me for brown inks. I don't want it to look black. I do believe that the Jacques Sarbon Terre d'Ombre, that's a lot darker, but I can't remember how it came out of the nib, so I'll have to do a little exploring. And then KWZ Cappuccino is so far out, but it's a good way for you to see if you're familiar with anything here. Diamine Tobacco Burst, that's gorgeous, but you can see the tone is way different. It's much more wheat looking. And then Noodler's Chisholm Trail, the Dromgool's exclusive, that's a lot more permanent. It's got a lot of red in it, but wow, I thought, wow, that really compares. The inner guts to it does really compare. And then you're out in a different sort of ballpark with Robert Oster Cafe Crema, but these, I mean, I could pick up any one of these inks and really enjoy writing with them. There's nothing on this panel that's too light for me, and they all have subtle differences, so that just really is interesting to me. Now this is an old Birmingham ink, so I'm not sure it should be here because their formulas have changed, but it's John Arbuckle Coffee Bean, and I really love this. I've got a little sample left, a little bit of sample. So there you have it, Sailor 50 States, Texas. I highly recommend it, but I'm afraid it's going to be one of those that'll be long gone soon because I'll write with it, and then it's just such a small bottle. Whoops, there goes my microphone. Wow. Huh. Oh my gosh, I tried to put the cover back on the microphone, couldn't see it because, you know, long story, I wear glasses and require 16 different pair, I think. But anyway, that's 50 States, Texas from Sailor. Let's move on to day 21. This is such a gorgeous ink. The first thing I noticed, though, was how different it looked coming out of a nib than it did on the tile, the index card, or whatever you want to call it. So Diatremenis Apple Blossom. It is scented, too. I had a hard time finding this ink. It was sold out at Goulet, but it was listed. And I just didn't really have time to like go on a scouring hunt of the internet for it, since I don't have any business buying ink. But anyway, here's the chromatography. It leaves a nice solid gray line, so that indicates some water resistance, and you can see that here. And you can really see it in the card too. It did leave behind quite a bit of the paintbrush marks down below there. Let's see, I said having problems finding this ink, sold out at Goulet, okay. And then I just love it. I really love it. I said it was close in color to Noodler's Mata Hari's Cordial. Okay, we'll look at that though, because that might have been an initial sort of a assumption. I can't even think of my words today. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think it's time to go to the ink panel. Okay, so sometimes when a panel is all over the place, you know, colors just wild and different, it means that I didn't have anything anywhere near it. And sometimes it's just, I do this on purpose partially, like I'll put a bright pink just so we can have a stabilizing factor. Like many are familiar with Diamine Hope Pink, so you can see how far it is away from that. This is our Diatremenis Apple Blossom, and I still think it reminds me of Noodler's Mata Hari's Cordial. But there is a little tone difference. You can see that even through all the lights, cameras, and screens. And it's much more, this is permanent, this is bulletproof. I mean, it barely even moved any of the ink. And I don't give that ink a long time to dry, so they're all treated exactly the same. So I also thought Kobe number 6 Bordeaux was a pretty close ballpark, but gee, there's no cigars here because they're all different, I think. And then Robert Oster Cherry Blossom, that's really pretty and less saturated. The Vintage Schaefer Script, the Persian Rose, that makes me want to get that in a nib, actually. I don't know why I haven't yet. I need to. Had that in-house for a long time. I don't know why this is here. Three Oysters Red Wine. I don't know. I guess it just, you know, I always like to have an even number, or a 9, not an even number, but I like to have a square. And it actually ends up being that I need this for another panel too, so I'm going to take it away. But anyway, this is a pretty ink. It's just really pretty. It's plenty saturated enough. I mean, you probably saw that. It's just hard to find, so I'm sure somewhere else, maybe not in the United States, it might be easier to find it. Or the jury's still out. I need to continue to look into that because I would like to know if it's available anywhere. Okay, so let's go to day 23. And this is a very sneaky ink. Look how red that looks on the index card. And how pale and hungover it looks over here in the writing. It's just pretty incredible, the difference. You would think, oh, that's a mistake, it's the wrong ink, but it's the same ink, all right. This is watercolor paper, and this is Tomoe River 68 GSM. So, oddly enough, even though this is a limited ink, limited edition, Vanessa still had it, 50 mil for $17, and 4 mil samples for $2.60. And it isn't, you know, it isn't ugly. I like it. It's very pretty, actually. It just is not what you expect when you open the vial, you know, and you open the cap. It's red like this. It looks really red. And then when you get it onto Tomoe River anyway, you're definitely looking at something that looks peachy, pinky, kind of washed out, hungover. That's a good name for it. So let's see. Oh, I made notes about Willie. Willie continued to get better, and he's all better now. He's doing great. Willie is my cat. And let's go and look at the full panel for this, which I think is really an odd panel, but we'll look at it anyway. Okay, so Robert Oster Santa's Hangover Limited Edition 2020 Holiday, right smack in the middle. I just had to get out Robert Oster Whisper Red, because I thought, let's look at that. That kind of reminded me of it a little bit. And it may look more like it in the panel than it does in a nib. You could see all that darker saturation coming out on the edges there. That's going to make it look a lot different. And then this was one where I had bought a bottle and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was saturated enough. I only kept a little sample of it, and I gave the bottle to an artist friend of mine. But then you see, like Diamine Classic Red, how much, well, really redder that is. And you need both. You need to look at both the swatch and where the water hit to see it, because it starts to blur and all the reds start looking kind of bright, you know, here. If that makes sense. So do remember to compare the inner part too. That helps our eyes, I think. And then Rohrenklinger Fernambuk, to me that's a pink, but still, it compares. It's very interesting how it compares. Even this one, Ferris Wheel Press Pink Eraser. And I remember Pink Eraser in a nib, and I would say that these two are strikingly similar in a nib, considering that I thought more of this as a red, the Santa's Hangover. But, I mean, I think it's just aptly named. It kind of does weird things once you get it on paper. So this Ink Journal Holiday Blend Candy Cane, that was really gorgeous. I wished I had more. In fact, I can, because there's a recipe hanging around somewhere of which platinum inks, I think, to mix and make that. But it was pretty. Twisby Red, that's a little brighter than Diamine Classic Red. It's got that neon kind of capability there. I don't know if that was any help or if I just made you dizzy. But anyway, there's the panel, and it was certainly an interesting ink, and it won't go to waste. It's pretty. You can read it. So on to day 24. Okay, day 24 was a switcheroo because one of my dear pen friends, Sharon, was interested in this Diamine Writer's Blood, and I had the ink in-house and everything, and wondered why I didn't think to put it in here to begin with. Van Ness sent me a 30 ml bottle. It was a weird thing where I put in an order and I wanted to order this. It was part of my order, but it was sold out, and I left it in my cart, and by the time they shipped my order, I had the writer's blood in the order, so it was very confusing, but it was great. It was just great because I wanted to try it. So it's kind of a, I guess people describe it, because I have a hard time describing, as like a wine red or a wine purple. Gosh, and I'm losing it. I knew I was going to, because I have a hard time describing these that look kind of burgundy and they look kind of purple too, but this definitely leans purple. And so here it is. Let's see. It gushes out of the nibs. Even this Lamy nib. Now I had looked at this ink before. I'm going to get out, I want to get out my old ink journal that I'm now filling in. I just want to have that handy because I did start to do it on the 14th of last month. Okay, so this is in a Lamy. All of the ones I'm doing today are in a Lamy broad nib, and it really gushed out of there. Here, I put it in my Serendipity in a fine nib, and it still looked really, really dark. It almost comes out of the nib almost black. And that was true even in that fine nib. And then up here, it was a Goulet broad nib. So a Goulet broad nib, a number 6, it comes out even more intensely and looks even thicker than this Lamy. This is the Lamy over here. I have a feeling that I'm complicating things. But anyway, let's look at it a little closer. It is still available. Well, it was out of stock at Van Ness, but Goulet had a little bottle, a 30 ml bottle for $7.50. So that makes it about 25 cents a mil. But that was on the day that I checked, on April 24th, 2021. So don't hold me accountable if they've sold out. It's a very wet ink. It's nice and dark. I can see people who really like a dark ink for office or for, just because that's what they like better. And you can see shading in it. It's hard to show, but you can see the shading even though it comes out so quickly, so wet out of the nib. Here it is on the Tomoe River Splatter, and here's the chromatography showing some water resistance. It has a gray line, and it did stay here. Then on the swatch card, you can see it underneath there a little, but not much. Let's see if it bled through. No, only where it was painted on. There was, this is good paper though. This is 68 GSM Tomoe River paper. But let's look at the comparisons and we'll see what we can do. It was a little bit hard to find anything that looked just like it, but I think it could be of value to you to see what it looks like. So let's try, or what it compares to. Okay, whoops. Oh, Coco. Oh, come on now. Don't get in the way. Oh, there he goes. Walking past. Poor Coco. Oh, I can't see well, so I don't know. I may have not paused it when I was supposed to, and I may be paused now, but I don't think so. I think I'm recording. I hope so. Oh my goodness. Okay, right in the middle here, assuming we're filming, is Diamine Writer's Blood. And right next to it is one that I thought was a really good match, Diamine Wine Divine Shimmer. Now that's a gorgeous ink, but it also has a gold shimmer, so that's going to change things a little. But as far as base color, I just felt like it really looked like that. And I also felt that it was close to Monteverde Blueberry Muffin, but not completely, not entirely. And my eye sees it very, very close to Diamine Rustic Brown, which I consider to be strange, but I absolutely do think it'll probably come out of a nib similar, nice and dark, really almost black. Now, Diamine Merlot is kind of, let's see, how would you describe the difference? There's a big difference, and yet, coming out of a nib, it's another really dark, kind of winey purple. Did I just say whiny? I don't know why I said that. But, it's reminiscent. It made me think of it. And, you know, Diamine Syrah I thought was going to be a match, but it's much brighter, and that was, you know, that's just one of those where I went and got it and realized no. And then Noodler's Purple Heart is much more purpley and has actually more red too, I guess, because it's just different. Sailor Grenade, a friend wanted me to include this one, and this is just a lot brighter. It's got gold sheen that kind of messes with the color at the top, but it did make me think of it. It's, you know, it's way over in a different ballpark. And then Robert Oster Hippo Purple, it's got that brownish almost look to it. So it's different, but it did remind me of it quite a bit. So this is just really interesting. Now, I didn't run full tests this time, but I can just hear one of my pen friends say there's going to be a feather chicken, because depending on what you write on with an ink this wet, I can only imagine and speculate, which I don't like to do. I like to be very specific, because generalizations in this hobby don't get us very far. We need to be specific about the nib, the paper, and the ink, you know, just to say it's a bleeder, or it's wet, or it does this or that. Well, it depends on what you're using for a nib and paper and the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, I know we can get too hung up on specifics, but I do think that this will behave differently on different paper, and it needs more investigation. For me, I just have to be honest, it's a little too dark. It's a little too dark, but it's certainly, the price is right, and it's a flowy ink that I would put in a pen, like a fine nib that I had trouble with. If I felt like the nib was too dry, but there really wasn't much I could do, or have already done what I could do, I bet you this ink would help a pen that I would consider too dry. That's just another speculation. Okay, let's move on to day 25. Okay, for day 25 we have Califolio Bourgogne, and this ink is a wine red burgundy that leans purple, and it really does. It really, to me, I see it as purple. Regardless of the light, regardless of anything, I see it as purple. But it is beautiful, and this sample was sent to me by Van S. I saw on their website you could get a 35 ml bottle for $13, a 50 ml pouch for $9. You'd have to have a bottle to put it in. Or a 4 ml sample for $2.60. So there is one thing I want to say that is, as I was writing with this, and you know I'm using Lamy broad nibs for everything this month. The only variation being I'm sometimes in a safari with a broad nib, but it's always the Lamy broad nib. This ink felt dry to me compared, well, of course, everything feels dry compared to Diamine Writer's Blood, but just generally speaking, the moment I started writing with it, I realized this is drier. This is quite a bit drier than what I've been using, you know, the other 24 days. Excuse me. I think it's the driest one I've encountered, but it wasn't dragging or anything. It just wasn't gushing, and it wasn't flowing quite the same. And the Lamy broad nib can handle it. You know, it makes a fairly good flow, but it's just drier than what I'm used to. So it would range from 18 cents a mil to 37 cents, depending on whether you went for that pouch and did your own bottling, or whatever you might decide to do. I love the color. I really do. This is one that I'm going to be writing with. I have it in this little, I think it came as a, 4 or 5 mil sample. And I can see why they threw it in my order, because I love purple, and I really didn't have it in my radar. Let's look and see how it compares to some other inks. That's one thing that I've learned in this hobby, is that sometimes other people know what you might like better than you know, especially when it comes to inks. And even pens, you know, like something you wouldn't even think to try, and then you don't know how you'd live without it. Okay. Califolio Bourgogne is right in the middle, and I think it really shows its purpleness when you get it beside some of these others. Here is Diamine Tyrian Purple. I thought it definitely reminded me of that. And even Platinum Lavender Black, which has all kinds of water resistance compared with the Califolio, that reminded me of it. Now this is more purple. This is Birmingham Opal Basil up in the right-hand corner. It's way out there, but it's soft, a little bit soft. It's not like pop art purple. It's a little softer, so it reminded me. And then this Diatremenis Ebony, well, that's probably wackadoodle. I don't know why I put it there, but it's got a lot of water resistance. It's more red. It's not as purple, but there you have it anyway. Birmingham Allegheny River Twilight, the old formula. Now that just looks nothing like it, but in my mind, that's the one I had to go and look for. I said, oh, it reminds me of that Birmingham ink. Of course, now Twilight looks different. So maybe they'll make one, though, that looks just like that. I hope so, because I really like this one. I would like a bottle of it. I have samples, so please don't worry and don't send me, because I have combined samples up to like 15 ml into a little bottle. So these wishes that go out, sometimes be careful what you wish for. Okay, so here's Birmingham Plum Bushel. Now that is a contender, kind of. It has a lot more water resistance, and it would be old formula as well. That was back when they were having their pen parcel. I got it as a sample that came during one of the months. And I kind of liked comparing it to Three Oysters Red Wine. That's pretty. This one has more red, and this one has more purple, I guess. But this was fun. This was super fun. Okay, so there we have it. Now, this is when I normally look and see if I had a favorite, and I don't even have to look. Okay, out of this 5 days, my favorite was definitely that first day. It was Sailor 50 States, Texas. Let's just grab, though, the ink journal. Oh, dear. If you're not already dizzy, you will be. Okay, so out of these 5, this was my favorite. This brown I am just so thrilled at myself that I blew more money on ink because it's beautiful. It shades gorgeously. It's just a little more darker than SBRE Brown, and it's pretty, and it's the state I'm living in. Texas. I claim Vermont as where I'm from because I'm from Vermont. So I'm hoping they'll do a green for Vermont. I don't know. Maybe I missed something. I went looking though, and I didn't see it. So I just have one more thing before I close. I want to just give you a sneak preview that's not a fully formulated thought yet about what I'm going to ink up with for May. So let's do that. Okay, so this is like so far from fully formulated, it's not even funny, but definitely I'm going to ink up this. Well, I have it inked right now, but I'm going to have this for the whole month of May. This is the Hong Dion Fude nib that writes kind of like a paintbrush, and it's gorgeous. And I even though I sneak previewed and have written with it some letter pages, definitely going to ink up with this one. This is a for sure. And this was from my pen friend Sharon. I love it. Okay. And then platinum or, okay, so this is the platinum pen that has been replaced that had the crack. Whoops. Well, I don't think I need to open it. It's, you guys have seen it and you'll see it again. It's the Platinum 3776 Century, the Nice with a broad nib, and they did replace it. I'd had it about 3 months, so it was under warranty. I couldn't get money back from Pen Chalet, but they told me exactly who to talk to at Luxury Brands, and I got it replaced, and I'm very grateful that they stood behind their product. So I want to ink this up and very carefully and continue and try to put that chapter behind me. And then I ordered this pen. This is a Genhao 85 and it is a Parker 51 lookalike, I guess you could, or clone. Anyway, I love the look of this pen. Apparently I don't know how to get into it. Oh my gosh. Gosh. Seriously? That's an annoying sound too. Okay. I have not inked this up. But it's a beauty. I got it on Amazon and it was not expensive and it's gorgeous, and you know, I just didn't want to go in for the full, whoops, that's a screw on. Okay, it's got the hooded nib, and the Genhal hooded nibs generally write so well, and although I don't normally go for an extra fine nib, in my journal I can definitely find an ink that'll be really, really nice for this. And gosh, I love the look of it. And I love the look of the Parker, but I guess I already spent so much money on pens this year. So anyway, there's that one. And then this came from a pen friend Vicky, and I need to put a, excuse me, I'm going to put either a stub nib on it, and I'll be able to choose a beautiful orange. I have an orange Genhal 159 that has the gold trim that I like for autumn, but for summer and spring, I really like this. So I'm going to look for something for that one. And then this, I'm going to ink up my Moonman Mini, which, you know, I did stain it with Bunga Box Lamont, but it was worth it. And, you know, probably I could do some stuff to get the stains off. But what I think I'm going to do is use Sailor Ackaby, which is another staining ink, but but it doesn't matter. I really love using this little pen, and the cap is okay. Oddly, that's usually where I stain things. That in here or in the cap, I usually stain it, but it's just around the top and around the threads. So I don't think I worked that hard to try to clean it. I can probably clean it, but I just have a real desire to have this inked up with the Sailor Ackaby. And then, oh, this is viewer request. This is a Zenzoi. I'm not sure of the model because I'll have to look at my inventory to remember. But it's a cartridge converter pen. So I'm thinking about this one. I definitely think I will because I promised. So this one is a definite, where some of them may change. That lends itself to a beautiful purple. And then this one is a Reform, and I'm trying to remember the number. Oh, I can't recall. But it's a Reform, a vintage pen, and I want to try like one of the Parker inks. After I get further down the line this week, I'll choose one of the Parker inks for it. It's a Piston Filler, and I think it's from the 60s. But I'm speaking out of without even looking at notes. So, but this was from a generous pen friend. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there'll be a mystery pen. There'll be a mystery one I'm not really sure of yet. But I just thought I'd give you just a little preview that I'm definitely going to have a whole new set of pens inked up for May, and I'll let you know. Like, I'll bring you a video of the inks that I chose. So I gotta go because I'm afraid I'm going to break everything by having such a long video. Want to hear from you in the comments, and thank you very much for watching. You deserve a medal if you got this far.